Concentration is a skill that must be developed. The skill of focusing the mind on a particular object and keeping it focused. So while there are numerous practices that can help strengthen this mental skill, the one I recommend is actually the only form of meditation the Buddha taught. The meditator simply places his or her attention on the breath and then pays attention to what happens. Now, in most cases, the mind will deviate from its assigned focus. But when it does, the meditator simply returns it to the breath as soon as he or she notices it has wandered. While this practice is neither difficult nor complicated, it will require persistence. Indeed, the Buddha's instructions went like this: monks, put your attention on the breath, and with your mind, follow it all the way to enlightenment. The happiness or bliss of concentration comes from having developed an ability to focus the mind in this manner and then apply the skill to spiritual practice. In fact, well-honed concentration turns out to be the doorway to the next type of bliss, or perhaps transcendent satisfaction. Specifically, this form of happiness emerges from awakening the capacity for insight, although, well, not the type of insight associated with mental analysis or conceptualization. As the mind learns to enter stillness, that is, to truly enter stillness, it can then serve awareness rather than trying to manipulate or control awareness. Insight, you see, is what allows one to apprehend a flash, or in a flash, let's say, the true nature of something, some aspect of oneself, or even life. When a person simply sits and pays attention to his or her arising experiences, awakening begins. And the first level of expanding awareness usually comes as psychological insight. When awareness is engaged within a backdrop of stillness, one begins to see the various aspects of the personality. The loving side presents, of course, but so does the angry side, or perhaps the judging side. One also sees his or her greedy side, and the part that fosters aversions or wanders in delusion. One notes the peaceful side and the side that enjoys harmonious interactions, but also the side that can be stubborn or at times obstinate. While one may not like all of what she or he sees, through applied concentration and mindfulness, one learns to rest in a simple awareness of whatever arises in the mind. Eventually, some of the judgment falls away and one gains insight into a host of complexities that accompany the personality. One sees certain patterns to the thoughts and arising emotions that arise, as well as in the ways one relates to others. Indeed, psychological insights can be quite fascinating, and aspirants must be careful not to get caught in the seductive web of such inquiry. After all, what could be more interesting than investigating oneself? Yet, if one heightens his or her focus on momentary attention, the meditator can connect quite directly with the nature of thoughts, feelings, and sensations, rather than getting lost in the stories the mind spins. Now, this is an important step, since rather than indulging the hows and whys for one's having an emotional reaction, one might muse along the lines of, what is the nature of this arising anger? Or what is the quality of this arising joy? Or what is the essence of the compassion now moving through me? Progressing in this way, one builds a certain momentum to his or her mindfulness practice. Again, this is the critical threshold in consciousness, and it is from this kind of self-reflection that one's awareness is opened for a leap into what the Buddha called purity of view, or as might be said today, purity of understanding. Now, essentially, it is at this point that one releases the mind's fascination with its own content, and the aspirant drops into a deeper level of consciousness. It is a level wherein one views the flow of phenomenal experience. Now, this deepening is actually a type of awakening wherein one grasps what is actually occurring in each moment. One observes the arising and passing away of the objects of attention, as well as the conceptual constructs that accompany them. Now, this step is truly important because it allows for one's first clear glimpse of the nature of the mind itself. One realizes perhaps that he or she is simply a succession of mind moments or perceptive occurrences, such as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, or feeling. Now, sometimes these perceptive faculties engage singularly, but at other times together, even simultaneously. While this fuller understanding of both the nature of mind and its remarkably compelling creative force, one may apprehend what the Buddha noted as the three characteristics of existence. The first is a direct, quite visceral experience of it's of impermanence. Indeed, everything is changing constantly. And there is really nothing anyone can do about that, no matter how much one might like things to be otherwise. It is transitory, meaning all arising circumstances, events, situations, and even physical objects exist only within a momentary context. And this is also true for the notion of a self, as experienced in the second characteristic. Although one really experiences a self, it is not real, since it too is impermanent. Well, delving into the reality of impermanence, one's awareness can open to what the Buddha meant when he spoke about dukkha, the third characteristic, which is the unsatisfactory nature of everything. You see, even the pleasantest elements in life are subject to change, and often much faster than one would like. Indeed, life itself goes by very rapidly, often leaving one wishing for more time, more energy, or more opportunities. So you see, it is this very temporariness that triggers so much suffering and dissatisfaction. It is not that these sense pleasures are somehow unwholesome or bad. It's just that they do not last. Well, clearly, Gaining this particular insight is critical for realizing lasting happiness, or the type of happiness that is impervious to the perceptual process of change. Indeed, change must occur. What's more, as one truly apprehends the transitory nature of all arising phenomena, one can then begin, let's say, open to the insight of true selflessness. Now, these two insights, impermanence and selflessness, are profoundly connected. And here's why. It turns out that what one deems to be a self is actually nothing but the very process of change. So this purity of understanding about which the Buddha taught is ultimately a doorway into greater insight and even profounder levels of happiness or bliss.